Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dan Hanford, and my wife, Danae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur. Before we get started, let's hear from one of our sponsors. Have you ever thought about investing in real estate, but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HanfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HanfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD Capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HanfordCapital.com. On the podcast with us today is Brian Gendron. He's a young, energetic leader with a demonstrated history of building teams and developing people obsessed with making a lasting impact on the world and legacy. Over 12 years of experience in the information technology industry with a proven history of complete IT solution delivery to enterprise businesses. With his IT consulting, Brian leverages his expertise from years of working with enterprise clients to make a big difference in the results of small to mid-sized clients as their strategic advisor. Brian co-created and is a co-host of a podcast and a video blog called Big Ideas, Small Business. It's recorded live at Rice University on Tuesdays at 3:30 p.m. Welcome to the podcast with us, Brian.
Hey, thanks, Dan. Thanks, Danae. Glad to be here.
Hi, Brian, and thank you for being on with us. And we always like to get started with having our guests to kind of give us a little bit more background, fill in some of the gaps or some of the questions that come from reading a little bit about you. So if you will, just kind of talk to us a little bit about yourself and have gotten to where you are in your business.
Sure, that'd be great. So the quick story is I've always kind of been on the sidelines of entrepreneurship until I started my business. So my dad had a product that he got a patent on. It was this driveway rake when I was in high school. And I helped him market and advertise that product across the country using Google AdWords. This is like 2001, 2002, and that was just coming out. And through that experience, I was able to get some scholarships in college. And then fast forward a few years, and continuing to help him over the years, my wife and I moved to Houston, Texas. This was about 10 years ago now, and she was going to school, chiropractic college, and when she completed that, the idea was to start her chiropractic clinic. And so we started one of her clinics. It was very successful, very profitable early, and we started a second one, and I'm like, all right, this is great. Let's put one of these in every suburb in Houston. And she was like, slow down. That's not what we want to do with this business. And so I had to find a different place to put my entrepreneurial fix, and then fast forward a few more years, I had an opportunity in management to start a division for the company I was with. And that was great. And they promised me ownership, and everything was going really well. And then one day I came to the office and the auditors were there, and I was wondering, what are these people doing here? And recognized that they were selling the company and I didn't have any ownership. So at that point, I decided nights and weekends that I would build the exact same division that I built. And this is an IT consulting and services firm. I would build that on my own. And ultimately what ended up happening is the day they inked the contract with the new owners, I was able to walk out the door that day and start NocserV, which I've been now running for nearly 2 years.
So tell us a little bit about what NocserV does.
Yeah, so we work with mid-sized companies that are struggling with technology, and there's a lot of them out there. And our entry point generally falls in one of three areas. Generally, there's an office relocation, which has been a lot of business for us. They're moving offices, and they need to figure out how to get this server technology to a new place. And honestly, that generally means we're refreshing and upgrading everything and changing how they use their technology. That's number one. Number two is just growth in general. A lot of times it means private equity is coming in, there's new ownership, and they're expanding, and they need an IT partner to help them deal with that growth. And the last one is the real unfortunate one we hear on the news all the time, which is there's a data breach or some sort of cybersecurity incident, which is a real tough one to come in at, but it's a good business for us. And everything we do really does have that security approach today, as you can imagine, in the field of technology. So that's really what we do. And then in the nuts and bolts of it, it's building out networks, helping them with servers, helping them set up all their processes, and then ongoing management. So these are long-term relationships with these businesses.
And so you've been doing that now for 2 years?
Well, I've been doing it for 12, but I've been doing it
on your own, right? On your own business.
Yeah, Exactly, under NocserV. That's correct. Yep. We started August 31st, 2016. I'm actually looking at a plaque on my wall right now, and it's been a good ride.
That is awesome. That's awesome. So talk to me a little bit about why you started the podcast that you have as well. It says that you co-created or co-hosted. So is there somebody else that you're doing that with?
Yeah. This has been a lot of fun. I've really doubled down on this recently, and you guys know this more than anybody, Dan and Danae, that this audio is really taken off. And I started this about a year ago with a co-host, Laura Camrath. And I don't know if y'all produce, but I also produce live while we record, which is interesting technique or it's a challenge. Her and I, we've just kind of been able to share our journey through entrepreneurship over the last year. And it's been a nice creative outlet. But as we were saying before the show, it's got kind of stagnant and growth. We weren't really experiencing a lot of growth. So we just recently introduced our guest format, and it has been amazing. We've had such great guests just like y'all. And it's been giving us access to their networks, and we're starting to experience more organic growth. And the idea is kind of similar to you guys. You take a tough decision. Well, we take a big idea and we dive deep into that over about a 20-minute conversation with that guest.
That is awesome. That's exciting. So obviously when you had that transition from, working for somebody else to owning and starting your own business, had you ever before then ever started your own business?
I mean, just, again, on the sidelines with my dad, and then very much involved with the wife as she started her business, Health Pro Chiropractic and Acupuncture. So yeah, in that respect. And of course, being an entrepreneur with starting a division with the previous company I was with. So yes, but not totally all in, which is definitely a different experience. Yeah.
So is your wife, still doing chiropractic?
Oh yeah. It's interesting. Y'all are a real estate podcast, or at least seem to have a focus in that area. And we have a very interesting situation in that we office right next to each other by design, and that's been over the last 6 months. And the reason we do that is we have a 5-year goal of having the shortest commute in Houston. And by that I mean we want to have a mixed-use building where our home is on the top floor and then our businesses are below us, right? Mm-hmm. So that's our real estate goal and shared goal that we have as a husband and wife, which is kind of unique, right? It's kind of neat to be able to share that vision and that goal.
So do you guys share office space right now?
Yes. So I could knock on the wall and be like, what are we having for dinner tonight, honey? And we can sort it out that way. And I also, it's consolidated the time that I need to spend going to get my chiropractic and acupuncture care, which I do regularly. So it's been a good time saver just being here in the last 6 months. And a lot of people ask me, how is it going, being that, working and living with your wife, and it's going terrific.
So I was going to actually just kind of focus in on that for just a second, because Dan and I, obviously we live in the same house, but we also work a lot together, and it's an interesting dynamic. So I was wondering if you can just maybe expound a little bit on how you and your wife have found a good balance, and maybe, talk about your ventures together, because it's a different dynamic that I don't think people who haven't experienced really can fully appreciate.
Yeah. When we really first started working together, and I don't know if y'all have kids, but we had our first kid, and it's like, okay, now we're really working as a team, right?
We have 4 of them.
Yeah. And so we're about to have our second. And so, we already kind of recognized that, hey, we're pretty good at this parenting thing. And it behooved us to consolidate and sort of save money as sharing, kind of leasing out the same space. And so there's a lot of, cost advantages to it too. But you're right, it is an interesting dynamic. And I think, you have to kind of play the different roles, right? When we're at the office, we're in the work mode. When we're at home, we're in home mode. So you have to be able to turn it off and turn it on as you go through the different roles throughout the day.
It'll be a totally different dynamic when you actually have your house and your business all in one place too.
Yeah, because then our employees are like, they're right upstairs. Let's just go get them.
A little bit hard to disconnect then.
When we first started in business, we had a very small townhome. And so our living room and our office was all the same thing. And I remember when we got a little bit larger house, it was like, okay, we're going to put our desks in a room that we can't even see when we're sitting in the living room, right? So that we could actually walk away and be away from it. And, gradually, we were able to do that. Now we actually have, a downstairs. So it feels a little bit more like leaving and then going home, which is nice.
Well, Brian, I want you to take us through a tough decision that you had, because I know this podcast is really geared for entrepreneurs and real estate investors. And as real estate investors, these people are also entrepreneurs. And so this whole podcast is really kind of more geared towards entrepreneurs than anything else. And so I want us to dive into two different sides of a tough decision that maybe you have had to make, you know, as well as your spouse there. And so first thing I want you to cover is a tough decision that you have made that relates to your business that was a very hard decision. It was a very tough decision, and it didn't have the outcome that you liked. So either you made the wrong decision or you made the right decision, but the outcome was just not what you expected.
Yeah, so I thought about this on the way in, just knowing the format, and I'm going to give you the obvious one and then explain why it was a tough decision. So, you know, starting your own business, right? That's the tough decision. But what made mine especially tough was I had a partner I was working on for months, and we're building out all of our processes, all the marketing, all the systems. And 2 weeks before we were about to launch, before I was about to quit my job in a very dramatic way, he said, look, we're going to have to partner. We're going to be partnering, not partners. So basically he backed out of being my partner, which was obviously a real challenge. You know, you feel the weight of not just half the work, but all of the work now falls on my shoulders. Not only that, but at the time, I'm not technical. So I've always been on the sales, marketing, and operations end of the business. I don't actually plug in servers or networks or any of that. And so at the time, I thought I needed to have a partner that could do all those skills. So that was a tough decision to actually go through with starting the business and fully launching, having got that news 2 weeks before.
Wow. So how did you get over that? Because obviously you're wanting to start this business, and you know, basically your key component that allows you to be able to do the business is gone. Because yes, you have to have sales, but you also have to have that technical side where you have somebody doing both.
Right. So here's the good news. So I kind of proved myself as an entrepreneur. You peel yourself back, you sleep on it, you peel yourself back up, and you just, well, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to go forward no matter what. And here's the best part about it. Those technical people the people that do the networks and do all that stuff, they don't, generally speaking, they don't make ownership. They don't make they're not the right personality for ownership. And that's not always true, but that's generally speaking true because they're the technician, right? Yeah. So if you look at, the E-Myth, right? There's the technician, yep. There's the entrepreneur, and there's the manager. They're very much in the technician role. And so that was kind of a blessing in disguise. So really at that point, all I needed to do was figure out an outsourcing strategy to work with independent contractors to get the work done that I needed to do. And then I could focus on the sales side. Now, the backfire that you're looking for, you know, how is that backfired is that I also then have to take on the project management role of managing those contractors, which quite honestly at times has been a nightmare. So and I'm dealing with a lot of that right now. That's kind of, really a year and a half in of operating. That is my biggest challenge today. And it really stems back from that original, not getting that partner that I thought did at the time. That person could really have had my back, at least on the project management side today, that I don't have.
So now that you're doing all this project management, obviously you've hired other people to work with you. Like, do you have other people that are now working with you to do the technical side?
Yeah. So there's 6 consultants that I manage, and one of which I'm about to bring in full time, and he would actually help me with the project management side, which would be a huge relief. That's one of those things that it pulls me backwards and doesn't help me move forward with the business. Moving forward is sales, moving forward is marketing, going backwards is account management. Hopefully by the end of next month, I'll have that person on payroll. This is somebody I know and trust, known for years, completely loyal, has a lot of the technical skill sets that I need, and even a little bit of entrepreneurial skill sets. So it's the right fit.
Mm-hmm. Walk us through a tough decision that you made that had a really, really good outcome. Like you made the decision and it was like it was better than you expected.
So business development, and I'm not talking about building out systems in the business, but business development in terms of marketing and sales. I spent a lot of time in the Houston networking community, just getting my name out there, shaking hands, introducing my company to anybody who would listen. And there was one particular company, Cogent Communications. They're a national company, actually international company, really. And they are completely complementary service. They provide internet, and that's it. And so behind every internet is a router, behind a router is a firewall, and behind a firewall is servers and networking. And that's all the stuff that we provide. So that pursuing that relationship and really doubling down on that relationship has paid huge dividends, and they continue to be my best business and referral partner. And in fact, I even went out and got a trophy made and made them, the referral or business partner of the year for NocserV in 2017. And so continuing to grow that relationship has been huge.
So what would you kind of label them as, like a strategic partner, or would you basically just, they are just like your number one referral, or how would you really classify them in your business?
I would say both. So here's how I look at this. So I'm a sales force of one, and until I get to a certain amount of accounts and I know what that number is, I've got to do all the sales for the business. Mm-hmm. And so for me to really grow that, I needed to be almost like a second tier. I needed to have companies like Cogent who have call centers with 10 people on each team and 3 teams here in Houston that are reaching out to contacts all day long. And then just making sure that my effort then becomes marketing to those people. So, when I create that award, that means they're walking by it every day on their way into the office, right? Or I've created a referral bonus for certain partners that they can hang up in their cubicles and always stop by with the cookies and the lunch and learns and all those things that just stay present with the people that are able to find me deals. So they're absolutely a referral source. And a lot of times now that I get to know these people, they also become a business partner and we build solutions for clients. So I'd say both.
I like that aspect of what you're trying to do because it's a grassroots marketing effort. And a lot of people these days forget that those things still work. And even though you're, a year and a half into this new business that you've created, you're already creating, awards and, trying to making sure that people feel special for, helping you, but also, trying to create that dual effect of, making sure that they're always, keeping you top of mind and same thing for you.
Yeah, the top of my marketing is absolutely my strategy, between social, between actually getting out and visiting with people, because when you start a company like this, you are on a shoestring marketing budget. So how do you maximize that effort? And it's just, you got to get creative, have to, and find creative ways to stay top of mind.
Brian, I'm curious if you will just go back for just a second about the beginning of the business and how, it wasn't really what you planned to originally, outsource and manage. You had in mind to have a partner, right? And obviously that's worked out pretty well. I'm just curious if you were doing this again, would you still think the partner is the best route if you have that option? Or do you think you sort of stumbled on really a good strategy for people to consider as a first option?
Yeah, that's a loaded question, and I've got so much to say on it. How much time you got? So let me tackle the last one first, and then go back to what you asked in the beginning. So having a partner, no, 100%. I know I have 100% equity in this, 100% decision-making capability, and ultimately, I'll be honest with you, this is being built for sale, and so at the end of it, I get 100% of that, right? So I think that I stumbled into the best possible outcome, and part two is, no, this is not how I thought it was going to go. In fact, I almost shut the thing down in September. I built it this exact same way that I built out that division for that previous company. And as it turned out, that wasn't the best business model for me to go to market with. And I attracted a dozen clients into that model, and things were going pretty well, but it just wasn't going to scale the way I wanted it to. So I tore it down. I literally started over last September and really started taking on what I would consider the right clients. So I attracted a lot of the wrong clients and started doing more consultative type work as opposed to what we were doing, which was managed service. We're going to manage your computers for small companies. No, what we've transitioned into was for medium to large size clients. We're going to really help you get strategic with IT and really help you solve this thing. So it did not look anything like the way I started. I actually tore it all down, tore out all my systems, all my processes. I very kindly let not all of, but most of my clients go and gave them to contractors that were a better fit. And I moved forward with this new business model, and it was the right decision.
Now, can you talk to us a little bit about your decision-making process? Because that's really what we want to focus on. So is there a strategy that you employ when you're facing a tough decision? Is there something that you like to do to help make that decision?
Yes. So I like to consider myself as an entrepreneur as a scientist. We're always testing out hypotheses, A and B, whether it's at a granular level, which is marketing, right, where you're testing one ad versus another, or you're testing out processes, or maybe it's on your clients or with internal staff. You're always testing. But when I'm making a big decision, this going to sound really silly, but the best thing I can do is get on the Peloton or anything where I can work out for 45 minutes, get the blood flowing and just allow myself to think and think clearly. And then the second step to that is take that to some outside counsel.
Yeah, I think that, being able to get the blood flowing and also be able to get some outside advice is very, very good, information because, a lot of times just getting away, clearing our mind, going and doing something totally different, it can be a game changer for, making sure that we make the right decision or the best decision at the time.
Yeah, I agree. And, one of the things you can also do is meditation, go for a hike, find your place that you need to get to where you can clear your head and think. And then outside counsel is huge. Simon Sinek, I don't know if y'all know Simon Sinek, but he had a tweet the other day that said, closed-minded people hear criticism, open-minded people hear advice. And that shifting to that mindset has been huge for me as an entrepreneur. And that's really just been over the last few months.
Simon Sinek, it's interesting you mentioned him because I'm actually doing on our Sunday podcast, I'm doing a book review of his book, Leaders Eat Last. I don't know if you've read that from him. It's a great book to challenge sort of the way that you think about leadership in your business.
So then I did start with why, obviously, and I've read that more than once, but the one you just mentioned is in my queue right now with Audible. So I'll have that on audiobook for my next road trip.
Right. It's a good book. He has some good ideas. And like I said, even after we've, managed several businesses, it's a challenge to your thinking and it gets you kind of thinking in a little bit different way. Do you have a book that you would recommend for our audience related to decision-making that you've read and that's helped you?
Specifically to decision-making, I mean, to me, I mentioned it earlier, the E-Myth is just, E-Myth Revisited has just been such a good guide for me as I, especially in the early stages of building out a company. So I always recommend that. I like, we just said, start with why from Simon Sinek, just to make sure that you're in the right place, that you're doing the right things. That's a big one. So there's just so many. I'm a huge Gary Vaynerchuk fan. I don't know if y'all subscribe to any of his stuff, but his stuff is almost just like, don't even think about it. Just hit record, and it's more on the marketing side, but just do it and don't get caught up in what people think. Y'all podcast, and actually it's funny. One of my favorite days, when I realized my podcast had finally made it, quote unquote, was when I had a troll. And I had an internet troll. I'm like, oh, this is great. I love it. I get to go back and forth with this kid. And my wife, some people would be like, oh my God, this is awful. I got to shut it all down. People hate what I'm doing. And you just can't have that attitude. And so I think Gary's helped me out with a lot of that with his books.
Well, shifting gears a little bit here, Brian, I know we only have a couple of minutes left, but I want you to share with us, what is one thing so far? I know you're kind of a young entrepreneur with this new business and everything, but share with us one thing that you have purchased with some of the money that you've made so far, or maybe somewhere you've traveled or something like that, or maybe you haven't traveled anywhere yet, but what are some things that you have possibly done with some of the money you've made so far up to this point?
So the whole premise of me starting this business, and like you mentioned, starting it now when I was 34, was that by the time my son is old enough and making memories, him and I can go travel the world and do things that I didn't get to do. I've got some German. I'd love to get to Germany. My wife's Italian, so my son's Italian. Love to get to Italy. I'm a huge fan of Rome. So that's all on the roadmap, Dan. But what have I done? So my first paycheck that I got officially with NocserV, I went to the Super Bowl.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm a New England Patriots fan, being from New Hampshire, and the Super Bowl was here in Houston, and my friend had some tickets. I'm like, you know what? It was early on. It was like my first couple of weeks of being in business, but I just got paid, and I'm like, this is how we're going to start this thing. So yeah, I went to the Super Bowl.
That's exciting, Brian. I hope you had a great time.
It was the best game ever. The Patriots won. I don't know if you remember that one, but the Patriots came back from 28-3. So it was amazing.
Oh yeah, we were watching that one on TV. Yeah. I'm not a huge Patriot fan, so I was grimacing the entire second half.
I have to be careful saying I'm a Patriots fan. I feel like half your fans probably hate me now. But
Well, Brian, we really appreciate you taking some time to be on the podcast with us today. How can people, listeners, reach out to you if they want to get some more information from you or start to follow you?
Yeah, so the Brian Gendron. That's also my Twitter handle. That's my Facebook. That's my Instagram. That's where you can get me.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule to do this with us. And I look forward to having you on in the future as your business continues to progress.
Thank you, guys. And best of luck with everything. I'll be listening, and I'll make sure to get you that star review.
All right. Sounds great. Looking forward to it. Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.